As we all know, Billie Eilish's fourth studio album, Hit Me Hard and Soft, is out. And while I'm... Alright, as we all know, Billie Eilish's fourth studio album, Hit Me Hard and Soft, is out. Long awaited, long anticipated. She didn't have to do much hype building. She's that bitch, for lack of term. I honestly have wanted to make this video sooner. I just got sick, but this album was so powerful to me that I instantly was like, I'm gonna make a video essay on this. Have I made a video essay before? No. Does that matter? No. I'm still gonna do it. Because I just feel that, I don't know if I've got like an esoteric view on this album, especially after I read some of the reviews. They were a little upsetting to see that people were, receiving this record as like shallow or lacking of thematic purpose when are you dumb? Don't piss me off. I'm gonna do a brief history of her. Wipe the plate. Let's pretend we have no clue. Some of you guys have no clue who Billie is. Who's Billie Eilish? So, back in 2019, Billie Eilish releases Don't Smile At Me. So this is her Don't Smile At Me era. She delves into the aftermath of a breakup. She pretends she no longer needs or cares about her former lover. Very adolescent point of view on things. Not too much character building, not too... we all know. Her voice. Her voice. She blew up. With her being so quickly kind of pushed into the industry, I fear she kind of didn't really, no one really talks about how quickly she had to be so sure of who she was in terms of style, in terms of how she presents herself. But when you match that with still being, 16, 17, it's a lot of emotion and you're going to do some changing. She releases When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? Alright, so in 2020, she wins Best Record for When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? For the Pop Vocal Album category, which beat a lot of successful people, including Thank You Next by Ariana Grande. Of course people were pissed. Not to mention, Billlie was visibly upset. She mouths no to the camera and expresses her frustration in her speech. I believe she literally was like, Thank You Next got me through some shit. Me too, Billie. I feel you. Moving on to the Happier Than Ever era, highly anticipated as well, lyrics dealing with struggles faced by young women in general, as well as then it being categorized into what women face in the entertainment and music industry. Fame, stardom, emotional abuse, what that can do to you from such a young age, power struggles, mistrust, misogyny. Billie Eilish's newfound self-conscious. Here, I believe she sort of starts to find her voice, which, not to say she didn't have a voice, we all know. Homegirl got a voice. But I think she senses her new style and how she can incorporate it as best to fit her songs and the story she wants to tell and portray. Which leads us into the present day Billie Eilish, Hit Me Hard and Soft era, if you will. Allow me to dive in. So before I really get into it, if I had to just merely describe the album, I would just go for visceral as well as playful in a self-destructive way. I really love the way Billie did this album. So in an interview with Zayn for Apple Music, Billie talks about how she loves to play with storytelling, and she does experiment with that in this album. She also says in the same interview how they being her and Finneus, travel all over the world throughout the album. Blue? The song Blue itself alone, I found Billie Eilish out around when Ocean Eyes came out. I always have loved her lyrically and just her sound. Just straight an angel. I think she's beautiful, and I think the transition between Happier Than Ever and Hit Me Hard and Soft is perfect timing for her life. Because again, with her being, almost pushed into this, position of fame and stardom, she's kind of had to go on this path of finding out who she is as an individual as well as an artist at the same time. Which, she's not the first person, but regardless, it's a struggle. And I can imagine it's hard and intricate and very delicate. and confusing, etc. Billie Eilish deals with a lot of reoccurring themes and motifs throughout her artistry, and with albums such as Happier Than Ever, as well as When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? One thing I would like to discuss is Billie Bossa Nova from Happier Than Ever. Billie says, "You better lock your phone and look at me when you're alone." She also says, "You better lock your door and look at me a little more. We both know I'm worth waiting for. That heavy breathing on the floor." I think here is one of the first times she kind of experiments with that vulnerable side of passion and lust, as well as just playing around with control in a situation. Billie, as far as using like a she or a he, you know, "Oh, he's beautiful, he better lock that door," you know, it's been very vague. A lot of people really vastly assumed that, like a lot of people assumed that Billie Eilish was gay, even when she was still in that relationship with Q, even when info finally started coming out about who these tracks are about, and that it's about a relationship with a male, and etc. You know, some people went really, like, hard on that shit. Sexuality is such a hard concept, especially to grapple with at a young age. You don't know, and even when you label it because society wants you to, you still don't know if that's correct. And like everything else about a human, of course that is subject to change. With growth, you are always subject to change. So, with the track Lunch, Billie the whole coming out thing is very complicated to me, because, you know, in one sense there's coming out and it being very special and beautiful and personal, and there's other senses where you can come out and you kind of get hit with that, "Oh, cool, we knew." To undermine someone's effort in having their first moment of being positive about who they are feels so shitty. It's terrifying. I don't really fuck with labeling. Like, I don't really mess with that whole sort of like categorizing yourself as far as who you are attracted to, because, I mean, you know, some people are just attracted to people. You can fall in love with somebody's soul, just the inside. You see who some of these stars be dating. They be dating some uggos, some freaks on the double. This whole album is up for interpretation. Billie doesn't want it to be you hear this song and it's, "Oh my god, Billie's talking about this person," and she wants us to feel, no. Billie kind of wants you to put yourself in the shoes of the audio and, you know, start making those connections with your own personal thoughts. But she does as well kind of confirm that she's not afraid of who she is, and she doesn't need to label herself. So, was it a come out? No. It was more of a confirmation, if anything, for people who were speculating. But I find it beautiful that she's grown into herself enough to just drop that, just throw it in there, she doesn't need to talk about it. Sexuality isn't something, that's not a vital piece of information that you owe anybody, with anyone. But, moving on from that, Billie was also called out for queer baiting a couple times, which I also, you know, attach that with the whole it being unfair that we're assuming. To even accuse someone below the age of like 18 of queer baiting, especially a female in the United States, feels so bizarre to me. Videos dropping of a girl hugging a girl or being very close. Dude, girls are so touchy. Like the besties, the girls, the GURLS, the girls, girl hug and stuff all the time. People are allowed to be affectionate, and I feel that that was just a really weird era. So for her to kind of, it almost feels like she's shedding all of that weird, you know, passive aggression towards her sexuality, and she doesn't care anymore. I didn't see any media coverage on this. Don't know if I'm tripping, don't know what's up. I didn't see any TikToks about it, but there are two connections I instantly made right off the bat with the promotion of this album. One, when Billie Eilish changed her profile picture to this all blue cover, I instantly thought of the word blue, which led me to think of the song True Blue. And for those of you who do not know, True Blue is a track that leaked, if you look it up, it says like 2021 or something, but I swear I remember hearing that song in like 2020, 2019, man. All I remember is I found it on YouTube forever ago. This song kind of, you know, again, in terms of letting it be up for interpretation, a lot of people sort of saw it as like a romantic thing and instantly placed it in a less of a platonic thing and more of a just a feeling of why? What else can I do? Am I undesirable? There's this unspoken of battle that gets launched when you begin to, you know, maybe get a little attached or form a crush on somebody who's maybe the opposite sexual orientation than you. And it's not a matter of, did I do something wrong? Is there something I can do to make you like me? Just coming to this sense of they cannot be attracted to me because that's just how it goes. They can't. This person's straight. They can't. This person's gay and I'm straight, etc. It can be such a complex thing to experience, especially at a young age. So for this song to have been made when Billie was like 16, 17 and scrapped, and you know, little 16-year-old me is hearing it, I instantly interpreted it as that's the true blue she's talking about. And so when she posted this blue picture, I instantly was like, True Blue is gonna be on this album. True Blue is on this album. So I searched top to bottom looking for blue, and I'm looking for true blue, anything blue, and I see the word blue. And I listen. And I sobbed immensely. I mean, it's such a beautiful song, but what a lot of people don't appreciate is when a song gets leaked, that qualifies it to be incomplete. That means there's no way to guarantee that we are hearing what this artist wants us to hear. You don't know what this track could evolve into. So Billie confirms in the interview with Zayn that she had scrapped it and she had completely forgotten about it, and it transitions into another song. This is a track by Billie that never leaked and just something that she whipped up and she thought she'd never touch again. But it was called Born Blue. Not in relation to True Blue or anything, just kind of on an opposite perspective side of sorts. And she combined the two, and it just made me so happy to hear because I didn't feel like, oh, it's changed, or it's about a minute shorter than the original track and it transitions into the other song and they're combined to make a full song. But it evolved. And for me to hear it years later almost feels like the track grew up with me. And it the same way I was so passionate about the song True Blue when I was younger, I feel the same immense feeling towards Blue. Because I'm older and I have such a different perspective on things, and I just finished my freshman year of college, and so things can just change so quickly, and for it to change into something so beautiful, I felt like what could it represent her becoming who she is than that? Just the change in that alone let me know that this album was going to be something worth listening to. So let me explain why all of the reviews are saying that it lacks substance, or it doesn't have any thematic value, or there's no more. No, baby. Let's get into it. Instantly, when Billie released the promo for Hit Me Hard and Soft, of, you know, her being dunked into the water and, you know, looking up, it's all ominous, she looked gorge, I instantly was like, Happier Than Ever. The music video for Happier Than Ever. She jumps into that water at the end. And so, you know, I saw a couple people being like, oh, she just whipped this together. In the interview, she says that she didn't have all of the songs done until a week before or whatever. You don't have to have a finished product to have something prepared, if that makes sense. So I instantly made that connection that was a beautiful and really cool thing to see, that she still connected that transition from Happier Than Ever to Hit Me Hard and Soft. Her just releasing all this anger at the end of that song and diving off the roof into the water and falling into the water and accepting it, and she's changed, and, you know, she's delved into these problems. She knows what the problem is, she's moving on, she's accepted it, and she's grabbed out. I would love to see if she connects that in the future, but I think it's really cool, and it's a great little, you know, Billie Eilish universe connection to make. I am going to go ahead and dive into a little track breakdown from my point of view, just what I appreciate about them, what I like about them. You know, we're going to have that cake and I'm going to eat it too. I'd love to hear what you guys think and which songs struck the most out to you. Again, I'm not really posting this video for it to blow up or for me to gain views. I feel so passionate about this album that I needed my words to exist. That's merely my end goal here. So moving on, track breakdown. Skinny is the first track on the album, and it was actually the first track that was written and finished when she started working on the album. Her and Finneus said that they finished this song, and from there on, they kind of were like, what do we do? Like, what do we do? So the other ones, you know, sort of came along the way, but Skinny was one that she was able to sit down and be like, okay, this is a song that I'm writing front to finish, and it's for this album. And I feel like that's why it's one of the more stronger songs on the album, not because it was made first, that has nothing to do with it, but because of the time it was made. You can tell it's so strong in its tone and establishing the feeling. With the transition, once Skinny ends and that beautiful violin part, which is reminiscent of one of the most important sections of lyrics in the song, ends, we start getting the, you know, instrumental to Lunch. So there's a lot of like really clear connections and transitions and I appreciate that about the album. Moving on. With Lunch, I think it's a good segue from the optics discussed throughout, you know, Skinny, as well as like fun plays on words, especially for Lunch to be right after the song Skinny. You know, Billie Eilish has touched on her eating disorder and topics of being unable to eat, or, you know, the struggle with body image. So for her to make that little, you know, jump from Skinny to Lunch is a funny little, you know, just joke almost if you catch it. Part of the Billie Eilish persona, as far as what she does want to portray as a character throughout her music videos or songs or just lyrically when she's telling a story, is her ability to play this, you know, sarcastic character who can be reckless without regarding the aftermath. I think the thought of someone, you know, completely being taken over by desire, so when if you're thinking of someone so much they're on your mind that it just the awful, you know, being in awe of them and all of the wholesomeness gone, and at this point you're just yearning. You're just the sexual tension between you and a person, not in the sense of love or even just being compatible, but just finding someone so utterly attractive that anything they do is just amazing to you. It's you know. The idea of expression through fantasy is nothing new to the music industry, but Billie's usage feels almost reinvented, the sense of newfound confidence, only in Billie's self, but, you know, also in the outcome of the situation. I think with tracks like I Love You or Goodbye, we sort of get these resolutions where it's negative or it just feels sad and scary, but we're leaning more into a playful ending and not even caring about an ending. More care into the journey of getting. In a way, I also feel like this is one of the more vulnerable songs. You know, we do discuss how she confirms, you know, rumors of, you know, what her sexuality is or whatever. You know, yes, she's attracted to girls, whatever. She's attracted to guys. She's so me. But not even in a sense of sadness, but just in the sense that attraction to someone is almost as human gets. You know, that's what we're here for. While we're getting less, you know, worried about labeling ourselves and stuff, it's also worse. Because people, you know, with that side of Lunch, you know, that Lunch tone of looking at someone through purely attraction, taking out moral or taking out any sort of, you know, thought into logistic, you can kind of objectify someone and take away, you know, who they are. So, no queerbaiting. Congrats to you, Billie Eilish. Oh my god, I can't own that stuff, girl. Moving on from Lunch, we get Chihiro. Instantly, when I saw that title track, I was like, okay, so we're gonna get... Billie is wonderful at naming her tracks. I mean, so good. Goldwing? I'm sorry. My Future, Therefore I Am, What Was I Made For, you know, Everything I Wanted. I think Billie Eilish is really good at naming her tracks. So when I made the connection of Spirited Away, I instantly was like, oh my god, this is an identity song. This is someone who just has the ability to take her name away from her. If you haven't seen the movie Spirited Away, this song is based off of a character from the movie, and it's a great metaphor for getting your name taken and the power of confidence in your identity. Touching this development of Billie, you know, being more confident in expressing her concepts and feelings through storytelling, Chihiro is a spoiled and, you know, upset 10-year-old girl who is almost angry at her parents for taking her away from this environment she's grown to know and love and become familiar with, and moving her into this almost rural town with no people that she knows. I now have a blanket on. 10-year-old Chihiro and her parents stumble upon a seemingly abandoned amusement park. Mother and father are turned into pigs. This witch who runs the amusement park and explains to her that it's basically a resort for supernatural beings to take a break from their time spent on Earth. And she has to work there without pay to get her name back and earn her parents back. So Billie deals with the concept of feeling the need to put in work to achieve that sense of identity, whether that's for herself or arguably relating to the plot of the movie, her and someone she feels a connection to, like, you know, who are you? Who am I? I think that's a beautiful topic. Birds of a Feather. Birds of a Feather is, I don't even like Birds of a Feather in terms of like musicality. I listen to it all the time. It's a great song to just belt. I think it's I think a lot of people, when you hear the term like vent song or like vent art, like a lot of people instantly assume like the extreme side of it, and it's like, you're getting all those feelings. Do you only vent about negativity? Sometimes you have such a good, you know, conception of someone that you just want to talk to someone or write down in your journal or think about that and put that amount of energy in such a positive thing, and that's what this song is. The upbeat, almost xylophone sounding backtrack played against this drum loop, as well as the cranked up bass. We take a turn into feelings that develop once that yearning and lust turns into curiosity and back into the more passionate side. When your brain has clouded any negative perception of a person, infatuation can become like this invisible string that just like can tie you to another person. Whether it is, you know, love, lust, infatuation, Billie's expressing just the imaginative side of it, as well as narrating that, like, you know, navigating new feelings that come with becoming a young queer adult in a world where, you know, vulnerability can be weaponized against you. And, you know, here I think Billie tells us that she's taken that dive. She's crossing the line between curiosity and awe, and just genuinely liking or even loving somebody. Loving the idea of doing something with them or creating a relationship with them. Moving on from Birds of a Feather, we have Wildflower. I find Wildflower to be one of the most beautiful songs to exist upon Billie's discography. This one's perking up a little extra. A sense of peace and vulnerability is created from the very beginning. That is established. You know, with the soft guitar sound paired with this the earthy water. There's this earthy water like creek sound at the beginning that you can hear. I don't know if you noticed, but it's a fun detail. Some lyrics I would like to highlight from this song. She was crying on my shoulder. All I could do was hold her. As well as, I know that you love me. You don't need to remind me. When I say that a sense of peace is created here, I don't mean it's a sense of peace in this waterfall in an island and nothing could go wrong. I mean peace after that storm. Finding peace in the conflict, finding peace in the resolution. Looking back on it and being like I know that you love me. You don't need to remind me. Be about it. Act on it. Where was my self-respect? So the thing that draws these lyrics together for me is this main motif and idea that you can confuse love in someone else's time of need. You know, if, let's say, you're so vulnerable with somebody that you begin to experience a attachment with them, but they're going through something, and that person is experiencing something of their own, that they're vulnerable too, just not in the same sense, but they are still returning that energy. They are still, because you know, you're a shoulder to cry on. And while you see that as, oh, you know, I'm doing this, this, and that, and I've done so much for you, and you gotta feel the same way, you don't know what that other person is feeling. And you can't hold them to anything. You can't expect anything out of that. The repetition and highlight of the line segment, Valentine's Day, crying in the hotel. I know you didn't mean to hurt me, so I kept it to myself. Brutal. Just brutal. To wash it down in the end with it relaying one more time, but softly. It feels more of a plead. More like she just wants this to be heard than a beg. Listen. Just listen. It almost feels reminiscent upon Billie's own actions, you know, servicing just her in the audience. Just Billie Eilish and us. So again, taking away all of it and looking at it from a literary sense. I also want to say that the mix of the drums and guitar are perfectly arranged instruments and vocal layers, and they create such, like, mixed with the vocal layers, it just creates such a stir in my head and body. And I truly feel like this song is one of her best. But it feels like an evolved Happier Than Ever, in a way. Just in the sense that she isn't hiding behind her rage and defeat anymore. She's screaming out her angst and just wanted passion from you, just wanted what I gave you. I waited and waited. Moving on, we have The Greatest. That's my bad. Here's where I noticed that all of the songs are like flowers that bloom from each other. Because the melody from the bridge of The Greatest is also in Skinny, which starts the album. So then it also ends the album. So let's not forget that Blue starts where it leaves off and ends. Yeah, we end Bittersweet with the melody of the beginning of True Blue, and then to this kind of easier to digest thing where as other albums deal with a lot of rough transitions, or maybe just like a almost like the equivalent to a jump cut in a movie where it's like just a complete aesthetic switch. When Billie has this way to capture a different vibe or a different tone without needing to change how it sounds. So many people are like, oh, every one of her songs are the same, but they're not. You listen to every single one of these, she's able to capture a feeling maybe the same, but it's not the same sound. So it's annoying, and it's so just unobtainable because of the way everyone perceives things differently. Even down to genre. You know, I never will judge someone for liking a genre I don't like. I'd say I listen to everything. But, you know, not everything. But people who just aren't able to, you know, capacitate the idea that your brain is wired differently from every other person out there. So you can't expect everyone to like the same things. That just has always been off to me. So I feel like if you are someone who's being like, oh, this album lacks this, you are lacking the comprehension skills to dive deep enough and relate it to how your mind works. And that's where it becomes something that you can appreciate. Or at least for me. We developed the idea here that the tracks sort of mimic each other in references or through repetition, in the chords or certain just chunks of each song. It helps establish whatever vibe Billie is trying to present for us. Moving on from that, we have L'amour de ma vie, which I love. I love. One thing about me, I'm gonna love me a French film, a French song, or like something in reference to French media or just the language in general. I actually took French over Spanish, not because of how much I admired it, it was because I don't know how to roll my tongue. I still don't. I ended up just finding so much about it and finding it so passionate. I mean, I love Video Club. If you aren't familiar with the group Video Club, I know we all remember that one song that was like TikTok famous, and it was like Dans mon esprit tout débat, je me perds dans tes yeux. I just love anything related to that. So when I saw that track, I kind of was like anticipating it to be a good. I knew all of them were going to be good, but I was hoping it was one of my stronger ones. And it absolutely was. Didn't disappoint. I think it's so fun and heartbreaking. So again, along this vibe where we're acting out and doing what we want to do and not caring about the consequence and then reflecting on it in the end. I think at the same time it feels so raw, and just in the sense that, you know, it's so hard to be honest. And the song feels like there's a sense of power shift in this dynamic of who's being honest, and this song is where Billie feels the need to clarify the wrongings she noted along the way. Lyrics I want to highlight: did I break your heart? Did I waste your time? I tried to be there for you, then you tried to break mine. So Billie Eilish here, in some parts, the idea of love is just such a weird concept. You know, especially in this modern era of it just meaning something so different and special to everyone as an individual. A transition 4 minutes in, crazy. It feels very retro and random, almost like an anime opening. I feel like it's very cool and helps dilute from the strong feelings we were presented with here. Some lyrics that definitely stuck in my head, again, besides the ones I already read, are, it isn't asking a lot for an apology for making me feel like it'd kill you if I tried to leave. Because I've been in that position where, you know, you're trapped in this corner. It's selfish to leave them or abandon them when they have to, you'd break up with them or break this friendship off or do whatever, and they could be left feeling like this, or what did I do to cause it? No. Think about yourself. Self-respect. That relationship wasn't good for you. This person isn't treating you right. This person isn't doing nice things to you. They're not thinking cautiously about you. It's a disposition. And it's like it does not compute, bitch. Like, it makes me mad. So, yes. I feel like Billie's frustration here is the same as anyone's, in the sense that this type of person who can manipulate you into thinking that you love them in the first place, when in reality it's just love bombing, and it's insane. It's crazy. Moving on, The Diner. Again, take the instrumental alone to this track, and it's just so sick. And here is again a good point where we're hearing what Billie specifically wants to express. Just so cool to hear how far Billie has come. Just from looking at it production value wise, it's nice again to hear. I would like to focus on how Billie took more control in terms of sound design, with Finneus sort of leaning back and letting her figure out how to do it. I do feel like this song again is our prime storytelling environment. That whatever inspired this song had to have just been so intense, even if it was just an idea or a thought or a concept. I think Billie is great at experiencing emotions and dealing with it, even in the sense that she can take one emotion and use that to have something derived from it, and maybe it's a false, reality, but it's real emotion in there. She's a storyteller. That's what she is. And it doesn't seem like it, but that's because she's very metaphorical. And I think a lot of people, again, because we're looking for media coverage and which celeb is being talked about, this and that, we're looking at it's not what music should be about all the time, arguably ever. I think Billie's expressing that here. I really enjoy the contrast between the perspective taking in this song. Throughout the song, tracks almost remind me of some of the perspectives taken throughout Happier Than Ever. It's from, the masses sometimes who Billie feels like could be watching her or are obsessed in the song. Throughout the song we hear like this tone where it's like, I'm obsessed with you. I'll do whatever I can to get to see you. I'll leave the card for the cops, when you call them, because someone definitely broke in, but they didn't take anything. They left a gift basket, and I'll let them know it was me. So you can know it was me. I think she's delved into this before. With Getting Older, she says, it's different when a stranger's always waiting at your door. Which is ironic because the strangers seem to want me more than anyone before. Too bad they're usually deranged. I feel like Billie is touching the same fears and anxieties and subjects, except through, this time, it's more of an experiment with being on the other side. And, this song just feels like it's from the perspective of the person that is so obsessed. A fun contrast to make, again, through this transition from Billie as she's been and Billie who she is now. I do want to discuss the troll at the end, where she repeats the phone number. Everyone called it and was like, I got the pre-recorded message, I almost passed out. I definitely thought it was gonna be something like that. Like, I'll admit, I kind of thought, like, what if it'd be her at first? But I think it's really funny, and it almost instantly proved into the point that she's making in the song. She knows you're gonna call it. She knows. So of course there's a funny little troll audio at the end, just being like, "Oh, hello." It is Billie's voice, and she's like, "Hello, I can't hear you. I'll call you back," or whatever. I think it's fun. And again, another way to, maybe some people thought that song was a bit much. So just another fun way to dilute it. Almost. Not like she has to. Not like she owes that to anyone. But if you take it that way, you can. On to Bittersweet. So Bittersweet is a track that is meant to be one of the standalones. It's meant to be I Don't Want to Be You Anymore of the album. And not to compare art, but just in the sense that you can take this song and listen to it alone from this album and get the whole vibe of what she's about right now. It's just so, I can't help but describe it as anything other than beauty or art. Pure fucking art. From start to finish, I feel that this song is one of the most beautifully constructed, engaged, and recorded pieces Billie has ever made. Throughout this album, Billie exemplifies her skill in transitioning songs and highlighting and emphasizing on what's important throughout tracks by using them to reference other parts of songs throughout the album. Here, Billie starts the song off with a beautiful synthwave, like it's so cool. I already learned it on my piano. I've got a little keyboard. We transition this into more of a simple bass loop. Billie's classic low tone, almost whispering voice, this feels like a build-up. Instantly, and something big is coming as soon as you start listening. You're like, okay, I need this to hit. But not in a way that you feel like it's lacking. Not in a way that you're like, I need this to hit. It's not giving. And I love me a track like that. Upon moving farther into the song, the dynamic just changes so fast. After about 1 minute and 30 seconds, we shift to a more bossa nova type of beat. Billie seems to be looking back instead of expressing emotions on the current situation. When I started hearing the notes transition into the next song, as I mentioned earlier, I did instantly recognize Blue. Again, to people who know that song, it was just an instantly recognizable moment. which made it all the more emotional. All the more emotional, and I think it's so, so beautiful and intense. So, Blue, our final track of the album. To hear the final product of this song, like almost 2 to 3 years in the making, what seemed like to me was so incredibly special. And as a longtime listener, I just feel that some people felt that this song was ruined or, you know, changed, when in reality it was a breach of privacy, dude. When songs are leaked, and I'm not saying don't listen to leaked songs, you're evil. I listen to all of Lana's leaked songs. Come on. Come on. We all listen to leaked songs, but we do need to also respect and understand that that is a breach of privacy. For us to be listening to that, like, it's not meant to be an intended finished product. And when I first listened through, I just teared up, man. I felt that in a way, I did grow up with this song for the past couple years. And it changed and morphed into something so completely new and adult and current. I'm using the word current because I don't think enough people are staying current. I think some people get scared of the state of the world or the state of their emotion, and they feel like they need to go back to a version of themselves that they were comfortable with, or act like it's a time that they were comfortable with, when that's not healthy and that's not the correct way to go about things. You should always be in control of your current. And that's something even I struggle with and I'm dealing with. So for Billie to open up about that, it's just so beautiful and open. The second half of Blue, which is the Born Blue part, has actually been revealed, as I mentioned, to be a scrap project from a bit ago, titled Born Blue. Eilish took the last note of True Blue and amazingly transitioned it to this melodic beginning, a very Goldwing. It just blew me away. It was like giving birth to the track Blue. What are the two initially? The two had nothing to do with each other initially, and in the concept they both have the common factor of being blue, it just led to such a perfect combination. And I think it worked out so well. And I know some people, you know, are like, it's too short. They're too different. I don't like one. Oh, I like one. I think contrast is so important. And I think they contrast each other perfectly and beautifully. And I think this song captures the full album just as well as Wildflower does. It's such a standalone thing that it just, to have that same perspective that I felt like I was dealing with, but more control on it, and then to switch into this perspective of, you know, here's somebody who's hurt, and here's me explaining why they're hurt, and then here's what made that. Here's what was before that. Here's what was in the making. Here's what we deal with, and here's what's making us deal with it. Here's what we're using to deal with it. Here's what we're becoming. I think the end of this track is very successful at establishing change, in the sense that Billie wants us to expect some change. And she wants us to know that it's okay to not, like, have everything planned out. You don't need to, you know, we all put in so much effort to be ourselves. Drawing on the star eyeliner, like curling your hair for 3 hours, and, you know, filing your natural nails that you've been growing out for the past 2 years that are perfectly shaped like press-ons. Washing your face every day with a prescribed acne wash or something. People are like, your skin's so clear, but that person works hard for that. You know, everyone puts so much effort into being somebody. Taking away everything that this album is about, it's about that. It's about those factors that go into making somebody and allowing that change to leave room for process and to motivate you to, you know, channel that through your art or whatever it is you do that makes you happy. I think it is a very successful album. I hope it sweeps them damn Grammys, and I'm so excited to see what other music videos we have. I definitely recommend checking out the Lunch music video. It's a nice breather from, you know, her videos they're just as good as the sound is in establishing tone, which I also appreciate about her. But with Lunch, it's more of like a very visually appealing, just nice, fun thing to watch. Regardless, thank you so much for listening. Don't know if I'll ever do this again. I have so much to talk about, and when things invoke a sense of passion in me, I always want to, and my school has this camera for rent, so I was like, F it. Video documentary / essay. To close it out, allow me to end this.
In all, I think that this album is beautifully crafted. The way it can tie into our everyday lives, and we too personally experience these gritty, vulnerable, and needy emotions. They exist inside of us whether we neglect to open up about it or not. As artists stray farther and farther from expressing what's real and what is fantasy, Billie gives us something to feel on a more visceral scale. I don't think it's something meant to be easily digested, and that's what makes this album stand out from Billie's discography. How current it is. Right now, the most authentic thing a musician can offer us is a connection. Whether that's through storytelling or hiding behind metaphors, Billie took everything she's mastered throughout her career and really expressed it mixed with who she is today, and I think that's what makes it so vulnerable. So expressive, so self-conscious, and just real. Whether you're developing good habits, bad habits, having good days or horrible days, it's important to just be expressive and let yourself exist sometimes. To take the time and reflect on things you could have done better, and maybe things other people could have done better. How you can love yourself a little more. Outside of all this, it's straight from her mind, and that leads to such beautiful arrangement, sound production, and just atmosphere in general. Billie Eilish crafts this album to be an experience more than something to just throw on in the background. And the transition from Happier Than Ever to Hit Me Hard and Soft lies in how Billie Eilish learns to cope. She realizes you cannot escape sadness, and every human has to experience it sometimes. But you can definitely choose how you let it affect you, and Billie channels it into her art. Thank you so much for listening, and if you too become lovelorn or scared of becoming yourself, it's important to remember that everyone does sometimes.